Okay, guys, video number 6. So in this, I have interesting problem that was actually solved for a personal use case. So I listen to a lot of financial related podcasts, and I follow a few people on X as well, right? So the problem that I was trying to solve, it's summarizing the X Spaces calls that one of people that I follow, his name is Stockholm Spaces, into something more manageable, right? So every day he holds a call with a few of other investors, right? And obviously I don't have time to listen an hour plus long call every day. So I turned to Claude to kind of help me come up with a framework that can summarize this into something more manageable and also avoid paying third-party fees, right? So, there are third-party services out there, for instance, Vokova, that can do this. As you can see, this is not a cheap service. Definitely, I wasn't willing to pay that amount of money. Some other ones from Space GPT as well. Again, like for some of them, you have to sign up for more than Pro or Pro minimum, right? So again, I already have subscription to a number of services, and I definitely wasn't planning to pay another one, right? So let me show you what I've done, right? So with help of Claude, I was able to build a service that essentially takes the call as it is over here, transcribes it using Whisper, and then kind of summarizing using Claude API. So let me show you the output, for instance, right? So this is one of the recent runs. It created audio file with a subscription, quite a long call. This is one hour plus, showing line by line essentially what everybody said, right? So you can see this is a very long file of full transcription, 2,000 plus lines, right? And then what Claude did for me is actually create a summary that I can really manage and read, right? So in this case, the call happened on June 12th, gives me like some basic information about, what they talked about, what are the insights and trends, which stocks they mentioned, for instance, so AMD, SpaceX, CrowdStrike, Adobe, Oracle, blah, 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 right? So you can see how valuable this is if you are unable to join and listen into the whole, gives you insights, give me some other information, audible codes, right? Very valuable to me to just at a glance, with 3 to 5 minutes of read time, be able to kind of distill it down to most useful information. So with that, let me show you what I built and how it works, right? So let's start with the architecture, which is relatively simple, right? So everything is instrumented through Python. I have a script that I'll show you in a minute that essentially downloads the call in this case, right? So that's step number 1, uses DLP to download it. Then I'm running it through a Whisper, open source Whisper, which runs on my local CPU, doesn't require GPU or anything like that, to transcribe that, which is really what you see over here. That's the transcription. And then finally, I'm running it through a Claude API to summarize it, right? Now, Claude API, it's a paid, obviously, service, right? The alternative that I'll show you in a minute, it's actually using Ollama, which is a totally free. And then finally, you have output files that I already shared, right? So the audio file, the text file, as well as the summary markdown file for each call, right? If you can see in my folder, right, I've been running it for last few different calls. So, this is the post ID, and for each post ID, I have different set of files, right? And later on, I actually rename that to reference it by day, so it's kind of easier for me to see it, right? But in a nutshell, it's a relatively simple framework. And we can actually look at the source code of the files, right? So first one, it's the downloader. It passes, or you get the argument of the space location, right? And then using DLP, it will run download on the file and save it as a temporary file, right? And then later, the same script actually does transcription. As I mentioned, I'm using Whisper model to do it. So it's a local installation of Whisper, faster Whisper. Obviously there's paid option, but again, I don't want to pay, right? There are some other options that I also try to explore, diarize the audio. Those are kind of in I would say, alpha stage. They're still not ready, right? But it's relatively simple script that kind of goes through each call, right? Then I turn this into essentially a pipeline file that I can just pass space URL. So in this case, right, so that allows you to just really quickly run this run this in a scheduled manner, right? So that's really what pipeline is. It's kind of meant for automation. And then the last one, which is the summarize.py, that Python, this is the summarization file that calls the Claude API. You can see the prompt that Claude came up with. I've worked a couple of times to tweak it, but relatively simple one, obviously. And then it submits summarization run, right? So you will also need a couple other things, which are keys. So in this case, you need an Anthropic key. This is just example file. If you want to experiment with the diarization of audio, then you need a Hugging Face token to use some of those models. But again, this is very slow because I don't have a GPU. And then obviously to get the downloaded files from the X, then you need a X Twitter bearer token as well. So prior to running the service, you have to fill those out in order for it to run. So when all said and done, you can actually go to my GitHub repo, which you see over here. I've already pushed the latest version of the code as I'll continue to make updates. Obviously, I'll continue to push it forward, right? But gives you basic information, gives you requirements.txt, which I can show you what you need. DLP, Whisper, Anthropic, Pinode Audio, Torch, and Playwright, right? So those other ones are required for the diarization of the audio. And then it gives you usage, right? So Python pipeline, if you pass it Space ID, and then the added bonus and added capability, right? That if you use the check and run.python, that's essentially cron ready or automation ready that you can schedule through Claude. So in this case, you can see it that it runs at 9 UTC, and then it just simply downloads, runs through summarization, right, and pushes the latest transcript to the folder, right? So all in all, very simple, runs very quickly. I put together a quick kind of summary of the cost comparison, right? So as I mentioned, the SaaS tools such as Vokova and others, right? Those are depending on the level you pick, $15 to $50 a month. And again, they're very inflexible too. In some cases, I couldn't get it to work, so I just abandoned, right? So this specific script that it's in GitHub, that requires a Claude API, which obviously it's a paid service. You have to set up your Anthropic account and add your credit card number, right? So, it's still relatively cheap comparing to the paid options. Now, if you want to do really free option, right, then you can use the Ollama service as well, right? So, from there you can choose Llama 3, Mistral, or any of those free model that are available. Obviously, they're not as fully featured as Claude, Sonnet, or Opus, but they're good enough for the service, right? So let me know if you want any changes, if you want me to add any capabilities, such as maybe emailing the summary or whatnot. Just let me know in the comments, and then I'll be able to make those changes. Thanks for listening, and take care.